All right, so I wanted to show this bar pattern and using it actively with specifically scalping and day trading. So I know a lot of the videos I've been posting lately have been more of macro movements or like short-term swing trades, but I wanted to show that these bar patterns, when you understand how they work and understand the fractals and how to identify where we're at in the bar pattern, you can use them for scalping as well. So here's a setup. I've been using this bar pattern for quite some time now. It's been following very, very closely with all its movements. I'm not going to go over the full analysis of that. I posted it in a video a couple days ago. But basically right here is summer of 2023, right? And I basically identified that this area is what we're repeating right now. And right now so the right side of my screen is current price. This is the bar pattern from 2023. Just going over the pattern and where we're at now, we can see that after we bottomed out, came down, pushed up, came back down again, kind of like this right here. Then we pushed up, pulled back again, pushed up, pulled back, push up, and then basically formed a steep trend line, which I drew out right here. Kind of like this right here, and then we broke below it. That's the first break below. So I understand that this is the first portion of the fractal. This is the small version of what's about to happen on the bigger version, but it's going to look the same as the small version, kind of like the petal of a leaf being the shape of the entire plant itself, if that makes sense. So this orange little line I put here is this break below. Let me put this, actually never mind. So yeah, this right here is this. Then we push up to make a higher high, which induces buy side liquidity because we're breaking above this triangle pattern, which all the retail traders are looking at, which I put this line up for that portion, which is this. Okay, and then that drop that happened formed another trend line right here, which we broke below it. The sharp drop right here, I can tell it's the bottom because of that long wick right here looking very similar to this one. Now if I put this on to the 24-minute, and right here I'll do the 12-minute because we're moving slower here than we are here. You have to be aware that the times are not the exact same. They shift around depending on the day and the volume. So we can see that after we pull back, we kind of trickle down a little bit, have that sharp final bear candle, and then we have another push up above this trend line. So another buy side liquidity inducement. Where did it come to? It came to the supports of this range, or kind of like the POC, because the POC is usually in the middle. Let me see if I have a thing for that. Is it this? Whatever. Anyways, you get the point. In the middle of this range, before this drop happened, that's where we're heading up to, according to the bar pattern, right? This was that same range. Notice how the patterns are not the exact same. This was a bear flag, and this was a symmetrical triangle, but the overall direction was still following, just like we did over here. Now, since this came back up to the supports / the middle of this little consolidation before heading back down, that's what I'm predicting is going to happen. And the reason I started recording now is because I was hoping to catch it live as it's happening right now to just prove that it works. So I entered long here, just like a leveraged position, just for a scalp basically. I entered with 15K, so I'm going to catch this little move here, and this is about a 1% push up that we should have in accordance with the bar pattern. So quick, like $150 profit, pretty good for a scalp / day trade. But yeah, it should come in pretty soon. And then I went on the smaller time frames. You even saw that right before the pump started, we had like this dead volume here. Same thing for us right now. If I zoom in, it's mostly just this steady uninteresting dead volume, just like it was over here. But then right when we get that push up, that surge of volume comes in. And we can see already there's some decent volume coming in on these drops. It is 3:30 p.m. right now on a Saturday. So obviously there's not going to be a lot of volume, but that makes it easier for manipulation to happen. Just like in after hours trading, the volume drops and then a ton of manipulation happens. This should, cause a lot of, it's basically trying to hit a bunch of stop losses. That's the whole point of this trade. Now, if we look at the fractal nature of this, which I want to talk about real quick, this pattern here is literally repeating itself in a bigger version right here, which is repeating itself in a bigger version right here, but it's all the same pattern. It's like a seed growing into the plant, right? So the pattern is that we form this little steep uptrend, break below it, and then break above it, which causes another trend line to form as the support, which we break below it, and then break above it, which causes another trend line to be formed, which we break below it. And each time it's expanding in size, the longer time it needs, obviously, because it's bigger moves. And then we break below it, just like we did over here. When we broke below it, we still trickled a little bit and then even head lower. So it's like a breakout retest resumption, which really baits in the retailers. Boom. And then guess what's going to happen after that? You guessed it, we're going to break above it, which causes buy side liquidity inducement, which then that drop forms the trend line, which again breaks below it, and then that break below it forms a trend line which breaks above it, and that pattern keeps repeating itself until it doesn't. But during that time, when you identify that small pattern, literally like on the 5-minute, 10-minute time frame, and then you kind of just capture that image in your mind of what the pattern looks like, you'll start seeing it play out as you're zooming out and even going to the higher time frames. And then it just keeps expanding and expanding until it, it did what it needed to do. And then it moves on to the next portion of the pattern, which is fitting into an even bigger pattern, which we have to look at the higher time frame to understand why this is happening. So when you see a deviation of the bar pattern, it's not truly just a deviation, like, oh, bar pattern is just not working. No, it did its part. Now its cycle, its appointed time, has reached a point where it has to fulfill the next portion of the bar pattern that it's been in this whole time. And if it deviates and you don't know why, you just haven't looked at the overall picture yet, and you don't know what kind of bar pattern we're doing on the macro time frame. So if your micro bar patterns don't fit your macro thesis, that's something that could really hurt you. And that hurt me back in 2021 plenty of times, because I would see a bar pattern playing out and I would make a bunch of money on it, which would increase my willingness to enter with more capital, and I'd be way over leveraged. And eventually, when the bar pattern did deviate, that would like destroy me. And now I play into that. I know what's happening. For example, if we look at if I pull up natural gas, USD. If we go to like the 3-week super high time frame, make sure log is on. Okay, cool. So this looks crazy. All right, I'm gonna delete all of this and show you what's happening. The bar pattern we're seeing, the fractal pattern that keeps repeating itself, is we form a range, break above the range, get to the bottom of the range, form another range, break above the range, go to the bottom, which breaks even lower in this case. The bar patterns move in a certain direction, so they're not always just going to remain in a range. You can predict the general direction, but you can't predict the length of the move. There's certain things you could use a technical analysis to have an idea of where it's going to go, and like a pretty good estimated guess, but you don't know exactly where it's going to go. But all you need is the overall direction to make money. So again, when this drop happened, boom, we just repeated this. You understand? But it's a bigger version, like a Fibonacci sequence, where it's like here, here, It's like a galaxy. Keeps expanding and getting bigger, but each time it expands and gets bigger, it requires more time to go around, right? So just like here, being this one happened quick, but this one needs more time, and it's a bigger move. It's longer. See what I'm saying? And then again, we consolidate, drop, head back up again. See how we broke above this trend line right here? See how this is this? Now what happens after that? Form an even bigger trend line, which we did right here, which it breaks above, in which it broke above, but after it broke above, what happened? It dropped pretty hard, in which we formed this trend line before the drop happened, just like over here. And then this drop happened, and this drop was this drop. Now what happened after this? Kind of trickled down, bottomed out, pushed up, consolidated, and then had that bigger push. Now, what happened here? We broke above it, head down, just like we had these little pushes up, and then that wick right here, pushing up, but then heading down ultimately, just like we did over here. But notice how this had a longer time to go down, and this one was just a sharp drop because it's a bigger drop and it needs more time. And then what happened after that? Pushed up and consolidated, right? Just like right here, pushed up and consolidated. And then we had that big push up, just like we did over here. And then after we broke that trend line, started the cycle all over again. Broke the trend line, started this cycle all over again. So now, came down here, so we were like right here, pushed up, had that sharp drop. So this, because remember, it's getting longer in time-wise. Just that. And then we have this. And I made a video about this months ago, but I didn't post it. I'll post it anyway, maybe if you guys want to see it. But I predicted that we were right here when we were all the way at this bottom right here. And I called that we were going to head back up. Now where did we head back up to? Back to that previous range support, which in this case, these previous range supports, I guess this area would be juicy area because look at all those wicks. Or it could even still come up to here. But the point was, we're down here. I know a bigger move is going to happen. Now, if I drop this to the lower time frames, this, all of this, was repeating this. And I even color coded them and everything, but I just freaking deleted it when I highlighted that whole area. But literally, there were so many things right here following perfectly of what was happening right here. But after we pumped up, we were supposed to do this in accordance with bar pattern, right? But we didn't. That was a deviation. So why didn't it follow? Somebody following a bar pattern, not understanding the fractal nature of the market, would be like, oh, it deviated from the bar pattern. No, no, no. It fulfilled its macro bar pattern. It was just using that bar pattern as an accumulation area. It did its part because the accumulation is over. The institutions and smart money have entered their positions with these same accumulation techniques, these same patterns. It played its part. Now it can fulfill the higher time frame bar pattern, which is what? Which is this right here. Now, if this is this, and if this is basically this, which one is it? The answer is it's all of them. But like time, it's like rhyming. They're not the exact same. They like take attributes from each other and mold. It's like if this push-up and this push-up had a child, that's the next push-up. See what I'm saying? It's like, I know this is like philosophical, but it's like life. It's like this is the mother and the father, and then that's the child. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at this certain area of this bar pattern and you go, huh, it's repeating a certain section of it that looks like this. That's the equivalent of, someone looking at a kid and being like, hey, you have your father's eyes. Oh, you have your your mother's ears. Your ears look just, you know what I mean? Like little attributes. So you have the same exact height as your dad. Okay, well that was a certain sector of the bar pattern that did a bull flag before pumping up again, and then it repeated that sector. So this was the child having the same eyebrows as its dad, which was right here, which was a previous fractal, but it's not going to be exactly the same, and it still has different paths to fulfill because it's fulfilling a macro area, just like it did over here. So I know that can be confusing for a lot of people. If you're a new trader, that's probably very confusing, but for you advanced traders, you understand what I'm saying. Fractals are super, super important because they give you they literally show you what's going to happen. You just have to understand that the deviations are not mistakes. They're not a mistake you made. It's supposed to fulfill that area. And if it didn't, you got something wrong on the macro. And me, personally, I have the macro bar pattern mapped out for Bitcoin. I made a video on it. I posted it. It's the one with that like meme picture of Klaus Schwab saying, "You will eat the bug." That one's a really good video. Go check it out if you haven't already. But we're fulfilling a certain sector of the bar pattern that says that we are right here. If it loads, you'll see the rest of it. But also at the same time right here, which is also at the same time right here. So I know where we're at on the macro. I know we're going to have a quick little push up, but then ultimately a sharp drop back down to around this area right here, possibly even lower, but I think we're going to head to 56K and then head up from there. But yeah, I'm just trading the scalps during that period to accumulate more capital so I can enter that trade and hold it during the bull run. I'll talk about that in the video, but yeah, this is kind of just like a for fun video going over this little scalp. And if you check out the Bitcoin price after this video has already been posted, I'm sure you'll see that we have this pump, this small little micro pump up here. And you'll be like, hey, he was right. So anyways, yep, that's the end of the video. If you guys have questions about this stuff, let me know. Way more videos to come. I'm going to be pretty much posting every day, so stay tuned for that.